So I've been promising to do this video for a while. Why the name The Angelic Path? If you watched a couple of our past videos, you may have heard me talk about the name change that we went through for all of 2 seconds recently. And I said at that point, I will tell you the story of the Angelic Path and how it came about. Because at the time, I wasn't real keen on angels. That changed on a fateful day in Alton, Illinois, after attending a weekend ghost conference. I had never, Alton sits on the Mississippi River, which is one of the reasons why it's so haunted, and is across from St. Louis, Missouri. And I had never been on the Mississippi. The irony of that, this whole story, is that I am a constant visitor to the Mississippi River now because I live in Louisiana and I visit New Orleans a lot. So I was tired, but I wanted to drive along the Mississippi. There was this brochure. Now, there was a postage stamp size map on it. Not a lot of details other than there was like this little road going next to the river. And I'm like, okay, let me see if I can go on that road and maybe I'll find the highway I need to go back home to Chicago, which was about 5 hours away. So I was looking at this little postage stamp map, which isn't very detailed. And there's this little road that's going across, right along the Mississippi River. And I'm hoping that this road takes me somewhere near the highway. Because this was the days before GPS. This was the days before smartphones. Yeah. Probably not the smartest thing I've done, but I was young and reckless. I wasn't that reckless and I wasn't that young. But I wanted to drive along and see the Mississippi. So I started driving with this tiny postage stamp map. And so I'm driving. And it's very, very pretty. But as I'm driving, I'm noticing that there isn't a lot of civilization. There's telephone poles, and then finally the telephone poles go in that direction, and finally the Mississippi River goes that direction, and suddenly I'm on this road, and I have no clue of where I'm going. So I kept driving, and driving, and driving, and thinking to myself, I'm going to get lost. And then I went past this road, and behind me was a pickup truck that pulled out from that road. And I glanced in my rear view mirror, and I saw that there was 2 guys in this rather rustic pickup truck. And I saw the gun rack in the back of the truck with guns. And I'm thinking, okay, lone female, alone in a car, driving in the middle of nowhere, no civilization, and these 2 guys are following me. Oops. Oops. And then I start scaring myself. And because they're not that far back. And something about them was giving me the heebie-jeebies. And finally, I got to the point where I was so scared, I'd say, heaven, help me. Heaven, somebody help me. Because I did have spirit guides back then. I'm like, guides, help me, help me, help me. And suddenly in my voice, in my ear, I hear, in my inner mind, 10 minutes. And I'm like, What? 10 minutes, the voice repeats. Now, this voice was different than my spirit guide's voice. I felt calmer. This voice was authoritative. And I'm hearing 10 minutes. So I look at my dashboard clock. I did have one of those, and it worked. And I note the time. And I keep driving, and I drive, and I drive. And finally, the guys from the behind me, they turn off. And then in 10 minutes, and this was about 8 minutes in. So I got 2 more minutes. So I keep driving, and I'm, of course, thanking the heavens because those guys went off, and I didn't have to worry about that anymore. They could have been fine folks. Really, they could have been fine folks. But I was a lone female on a lone road in an unknown territory, and, so I get, finally, 10 minutes later, 10 minutes exactly, I hit a dead end, and there's the road ends into a crossroads. And then I have a choice to go left or right, which may be reversed because of the way the camera sets up. But I could have gone that way or that way. And I'm like sitting there at the stop sign, and there's no one around me. There's no traffic. There's hardly any signs of civilization. So I sit there, and I'm like, okay. And the voice hadn't said anything. But the fact that when I heard him, because it felt male, and then when I stopped at this crossroads, it was exactly 10 minutes. I'm just like, wow. Okay, I had to sit up and listen to this. And I said, okay, right or left? And they said, right. And I'm like, okay. And I turned right. Not 2 minutes later, I came across the entrance to the highway that I needed to get back home to Chicago. Not 2 minutes later. They led me the right way. They got me right onto the highway. And I was feeling such relief. Oh my God. Well, I went home, and I'm like, who are you? Who are you? What? Well, thank you. But I didn't hear anything. And so when I went home, I had to do some meditation. I don't have a tendency to do meditation in the car while I'm driving. And I got home safely, by the way. I got home safely. 4 hours later, I got home safely. 4 or 5 hours later, I got safe. And I sat in my home and started meditating and said, who was that? And I got the answer. That was an angel. And I didn't get the name of the angel at the time. I said, angels? Angel? I don't believe in angels. And they said, you believe in ghosts and spirit guides and even UFOs, and you don't believe in angels? I said, well, those are religious. They're religious. And they were like, no, not necessarily. Go do some research and find out what angels are really all about. So I did. There happened to be some PBS programs and some other things on television, and angels are universal. They're worldwide. They may go by different names, but they're all basically angels. And angels are universal. And I'm like, oh, wow. This was probably in August that I went to Alton. And a friend and I were going to do a psychic presentation. We were going to tell about spirit guides and psychic abilities, and then we were going to allow people to ask questions, and then also my friend was going to do psychic readings for them. And we had that scheduled for September. And then September 11th, 2021 happened. And the world came to a standstill. And I asked my friend, I said, should we do the presentation? And I very distinctly heard the angels, who I had now accepted, and just said and asked them to come into my life. And one of the things I learned about angels was you have to ask to get their help. Remember that. Ask, and it is given. And so I said to my friend, should we do this? And the angels, and she was like, well, I don't know. I think maybe we should. And I'm like, well, let me ask my angels. And the answer was yes. People need this. People need to hear a message of hope. And so we went on, and we did it. And about a year later, I was thinking of a new name for the company that I had, because I had a really dumb name at the time. I'm not even going to tell you what it is, but the Angelic Path came to me. And I went, yeah. Because at that point I was working with angels. And they were a very, very powerful force in my life. I would ask, they would give answers. I studied all about them. Finally wrote a book about them, Connecting with Angels. You can find it on Amazon, full of pictures. Did a first video later on here on YouTube. It got 20,000 views, shocked the heck out of me, and was like, say what? I really want to redo that one because there was some errors that I didn't know at the time. Read about some stuff that was an error, learned later. By the way, that angel that was guiding me on that Mississippi road, I later found out who is a major player in the Divine Guidance team that I channel, Archangel Michael. Archangel Michael, of course. Protection. He's the angel of protection and strength. And boy, I needed it that day. And that, my friends, is why I named my company the Angelic Path. Because that day on that lonely road, I had a life-changing experience. Ask the angels into your life and see what happens. Ask and it is given. They're pretty powerful. Thank you for watching. Go check out our other videos. Subscribe to this channel. Like, give us a thumbs up. And we'll see you next time. Many blessings.